Hello, I'm Shell. This is episode 3 of Oracle of Shadows. So how wild is it that we live in a world where love is distorted as obligation? We live in a world where people take a description of who they want you to be. They decide this is your title, and they define it in their own terms based on their perception. And then whenever you do not act accordingly to their wounds definition of who you're supposed to be for them and how you're supposed to love them, they label it abuse or betrayal. And they don't do the inner work of it. Instead, they take it publicly and try to defile every single thing that you have built because their wound is begging to be seen. We're literally living in a world where humans are just walking around with open, gaping wounds, oozing all over every single relationship. It's like a collective staph infection. And whenever these wounds are open and gaping, they're just attracting more wounds because they're so sensitive that they aren't addressing the wound. For instance, if you have a burn, you need to clean it. You need to wrap it up. You need to acknowledge it. You need to meditate on that. You need to do your cellular repair. But if you're just deciding, I don't have a wound, this isn't mine, everything is a projection, these wounds are never getting addressed. They're literally just open, creating more infection and infecting more people. This is the world we're in right now. It's an incredibly sensitive state of being that the human collective is in. And every time this wound is leading the way, you're attracting, you're magnetizing to you more wounds, more people with wounds. And whenever this wound meets another person, and this person decides not to coddle the wound, not to coddle the person, not to acknowledge the victimhood that these people are in, they're labeled as abusers. They're labeled as betraying the person. But the truth is it's the wound. And it's not anyone else's responsibility in the external world to address that. And when this occurs, these people attack. They play the victim. And victimhood is super ghetto, y'all. Victimhood is just a bunch of collective of people going around shooting other people for crimes they did not commit. It's ghetto. And every time you find yourself pointing your finger and blaming other people for how you feel, you're leaking your energy. You're oozing your energy out. And any bit of sound, stable energy you might have, you're giving it to the person that you're blaming over and over and over again. If you're creating content, a video, if you're sharing, gossiping with others, validating your victimhood, you are leaking your energy to the people, to the person that you're claiming harmed you. Nobody can hurt you. Nobody can hurt me. It's a choice I make to be hurt by others. So, for instance, one of my most recent ego deaths was the masculine and feminine digital war that's going on, that I'm sure you've recognized. Is women are creating entire profiles to bash the masculine energy. Women who have recently gone through a divorce are taking to the internet and saying, I entertained a man child for 13 years, and this is the current reality I'm in because of them. Okay, sure. The masculine has their work to do, the feminine has their work to do, but more importantly, our work needs to be done internally. For instance, my ego death was about the masculine. So I recognized that I was blaming the masculine for any disharmony I had in myself with men. Recognizing that if I continue to perpetuate this blame, this victimhood, then I will only attract more of that. So instead, I took accountability for it and decided if I wanted to align with another man, to have a partnership with, to create another human life with, then I had to be mindful of how I was treating my masculine inside of me. My masculine used to lead the way. How I created a lot of what I'm experiencing in this life and all of my rewards for this life, I did a lot of it through my masculine, which is connected to the ego. The ego and the masculine go hand to hand. This is why the a collective of men are experiencing or avoiding their ego death, because the patriarchy has fallen. The patriarchy has been completely dismantled. So that means the masculine inside of us is also being dismantled. And it's beautiful and it's magical, because to build a new foundation, you must demolish the old. You cannot leave pillars standing that are giving out. So the best thing to do is just to completely demolish the old and start over with a new solid foundation. That means no more existing bullshit from what was once holding something up. That was the patriarchy. I would absolutely love to get into how the patriarchy is also just a collective reflection of our own ego, because we live in a simulation. The simulation is completely created based on our belief system. So our belief system creates our perceptions. And if there's 8 billion people in the world, there's 8 billion perceptions. And each person who decides to believe the same thing, perceives the same thing, and projects the same thing creates their simulation. This is how mainstream media and the news and all of that controls the minds, controls the belief system of a collective of people, which creates this. So that's how the patriarchy was created. I can go into this even deeper. Maybe I won't do it fully in this episode, but the medical system was created by enough people experiencing trauma in their, let's go with, because it's a passion of mine, birth. There were enough people who experienced trauma in their birth, and they decided that their body was not created perfectly, designed perfectly as it actually is, to deliver life. Through this collection of this perception of women who possibly lost their child in childbirth, or who tore or had their pelvic this and this and that. This projection is how the medical system was created, because we are the creators of this human experience. So everything that you are standing against, in some way, you have created it based on your fears, based on your beliefs. If you do not want to experience the medical system or the government or any of these systems that are controlling a collective of people, you must then completely remove yourself from that collective. The more you post about it, the more you share about it, you are actually driving energy towards that. So if there's something that you do not want to see or you don't want to participate in it, the best thing to do is completely remove yourself from it, and to believe that it does not exist, because in your reality it will not exist. So let's go back to what we were initially talking about, which is how the underlying sneaky victimhood mentality is creating for people more reasons to be in a victim mentality. So for instance, if someone decides that their wound was not coddled, treated, loved how they wanted it to be loved, then they decide that they want to verbally express that in creating content, in creating videos, in creating smear campaigns against someone else who is the blame. What that actually does is it pushes energy towards that person that they're blaming. For instance, let's go ahead and use my experience, my most recent smear campaign. I'm not able to view any of these videos unless they are sent to me, because I'm blocked from that person. totally fine with me. I don't really care what is being said because it has absolutely no reflection of who I am. It reflects where they are, who they are, what they're feeling. But every time that video is created and my name is used, energy pushes my way. And I gain it in my field. I don't need it. I don't want it. I have my own power and I take high responsibility for it, and I vibrate higher based on me taking control of my responsibility and my power. For instance, one of the videos on TikTok, in the search bar, if it's used enough, the search bar will say what the video is about or what people are mostly circulating around this video. And it had shell in blue highlighted. That meant I was being seen and searched, because you could click on it and it would go straight to my profile, by thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of people were coming to my page and pushing their energy towards me. It doesn't matter if they decided that I was the worst person ever or if they agreed with me. Also, I don't care. But what was happening is all of that energy was going into my page. This is my third smear campaign. The second one, the first one, it was small. It didn't matter. It was one person. She didn't have any ammo with her or anybody to bring in and to take advantage of. So the second one, it started and I went silent. I had just gotten pregnant and I was like, I am not going at war with a bunch of people who believe that I am the reason that they are XYZ. So I just went inside. But all of that energy that was going towards me, I used it to create. And I created, wrote, and published my first book at between 5 to 8 weeks pregnant. It was beautiful. And it was a great way for me to transmute what was happening and create something beautiful from it. So as anybody who's ever had a child knows, contractions are fucking tough. They feel like your body's going to break. The same as when people are pushing energy towards you. The contractions are tough. But if you can channel it, like I have channeled this into this podcast, I took that energy and I channeled it straight into sending messages about medicine, about how each experience we are experiencing is shadow work, if we choose to do our shadow work. If we choose to acknowledge the wound for what it is and not let it rule us, not let it define our relationships, not let it ruin our relationships, but instead take the wound, give it a voice, and then create from it something positive, that's shadow work. So what I have done in this situation is I created this podcast. And if you listen to the other 2 episodes, you'll recognize that I didn't believe that I could create this podcast on my own. Turns out it's fucking easy. But I had this idea that it was supposed to be a certain way based on other people's perception of what it's supposed to look like. For me, I'm sitting here in my undies and my top, and I pushed record, and I'm not concerned about what's behind me because the message is in the words, not in my presence. And I'm fully transparent in who I am. So I'm going to sit here in front of you, looking the way I look, just woke up, haven't washed my face. It doesn't matter because the message is in the words that I'm sharing with you. That's my medicine. So when people are going into this blame game, they're entering a state of perpetual victimhood. Victimhood is ghetto. People are going around, choo, 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 choo. They're shooting people who did not commit the crime. And people are just getting laid out left and right because I didn't make this person. I didn't cut this person. I didn't create the wound, but I'm getting bled all over. As we know, what is the blood? The blood is energy. The blood pulsing through us is keeping our vessel alive. So as soon as someone decides to bleed all over someone else, for instance, me, I get to receive that energy, and I don't want that energy. I don't want your energy, but it's coming my way anyway. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to transmute it, alchemize it, and use it for my benefit. That's alchemy. The opposite of alchemy is to experience someone's misalignment, meaning I go, I'm not aligned with this. This is something I don't want to participate in. I'm going to remove myself from it. For instance, I removed myself from the other podcast. I'm going to remove myself from this. I'm going to remove myself from any further collaborations we might have because this doesn't align for me. That triggered a wound, and I got cast as the blame, the abuser. But the truth is, I'm just a mirror of reflection. So in the shadow work of that we're doing, singularly, like individually, my individual shadow work is to recognize how I show up in my power for people and them being triggered by that. Back to my most recent ego death is the masculine and the feminine war. Now what I'm doing to repair that wound, that in the story I used to say of I am disappointed in the masculine because my child's father did not show up for me in these ways. Those were my wounds. My wounds were speaking. My wounds that I have also recognized in my shadow work and my most recent ego death was that my intimacy was turned off. My sensuality was completely turned off. And I did that during pregnancy, well, before, to protect myself. So if that's completely turned off and my energetic field is flat, how can anyone come into my energy and show me sensuality? Show me intimacy if I'm saying, absolutely not. You don't get any of this. And then my story becomes, because I was operating in my wound, my story becomes, he didn't love me correctly. He didn't touch me correctly. I didn't feel loved because of him. What did I do? I sent all of my power that way. Instead of going, my wound did not feel loved the way I decided it needed to feel. My definition of what he was supposed to do for me didn't get done because my wound needed it that way, instead of saying, this is how he shows love and this is how I show love. How can we meet in the middle? I'm grateful for every experience. I don't want to change a single thing that I've experienced in my life. I am just expressing, I'm using my medicine, my words, to support anyone else who might be going through this. We're not the victims. Mothers are not the victims of the masculine who did or did not show up for us. Because remember, they're fighting their own battles. They have their own wounds to manage. It's not our responsibility to manage those, absolutely not. But it's our responsibility to manage how we respond to other people's wounds. So let's move now into motherhood. I also had a story that I recognized was, I'm a victim of motherhood. I would wake up and I'd be like, oh my God, I nursed all night, I didn't sleep, and I would stay in this perpetual state of feeling like sorry for myself because I was woken up every hour to nurse. When I recognized that I was in victimhood of mothering, I was ashamed. Then I had to recognize that. I had to go, okay, let's rewrite this entire story. And what I did when I brought this, so we're going to jump around here. What I recognized in the same person who was telling me that I was not loving them the way that their wounds wanted me to love them, and that I was to blame for their dis-ease and their disharmony, I recognized that whenever I was sharing with this person about my recent ego death, about saying, oh, I was thinking that I was the victim of motherhood, this person said to me, it's okay. It's okay. You're allowed to feel that way. Motherhood is challenging. First of all, you have no idea because you've never been a mother. Secondly, no. That was a red flag that told me if someone is operating in victimhood, then they want to also be around other people who are operating in victimhood. This is where gossiping comes in so strong. This is why people who were here for a stint while this other person was here, is why they were trauma bonding over experiences they were having with me. Because I do not entertain that. I do not entertain gossiping. I do not entertain your victim mentality. I will tell you, this is where your wound is, and I'm here to help you excavate it and illuminate it. But if you don't want to do that, then I am a villain. And I've been a villain many times for people who don't want to move into that world of illumination. And that's okay. But when I was told it's okay for you to feel this way, I knew then and there I was out of alignment with this person, because I do not operate in a way that tells people that their blame on others is acceptable. Instead, I say, you are to blame. You are to blame for blaming others. You must decide to look into the wound and go, is this real? Is this really my reality? And is this something I want to continue to cycle through? And for me, being a victim of the masculine or being a victim of motherhood was not something I wanted to cycle through. This was absolutely not something that I wanted to be a part of any longer. So I had to go in and excavate that. And that's where I learned that my intimacy was turned off. That's where I learned that my sensuality was turned off. And that made so much sense as to why I was holding so much stress and pressure in my body, because I was not moving my body sensually. I was not trying to be sensual anymore, because I thought if I was to be sensual, then I would attract the male gaze. And I did not want to attract the male gaze, because I needed to turn that off, because I was in my wound. So this is where I am. This is where we are. I'm not a victim of anything. And being in the victim mentality will destroy any relationships that we have. And it is so sneaky. And this is what I want to leave you with. Please remember, surround yourself with people who talk highly of the things that you participate in life. If you're a mother, surround yourself with people who talk about how much they love mothering. If you are a father, surround yourself with people who talk about how much they love fathering. If you are in a relationship, if you are a working mother, if you are doing anything so that is your reality, as long as it's a high vibrational choice, surround yourself with people who also vibrate at that. If you are a mother and you are around people who are saying, oh my God, I hate being a single mother. This is the worst thing that ever happened. I have so much responsibility. My child is stressing me out. If they speak like this, those are not the people who are going to empower you. Those are the people who are going to empower your victimhood. And those people should not be entertained. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I will tell you the ramifications of if you live that way. You will be cycling victimhood. And remember, it's ghetto. It's ghetto in there, because you're going to be shooting people who did not commit the crime. You're going to be bleeding all over them. So I leave you with this. Surround yourself with people who vibrate high, who do the shadow work, who don't allow you to sit in your victim mentality if you're not in the moment that created you as the victim. I love you. And if you're interested in getting more personal, then you should check out the Holy Mirror portal, which is my private community. It's only accessible through the Shadow Work Bible. That means you have to begin to do the inner work to even get into this portal, because inside of there, we are safe. Inside of there, we are supporting one another to break out of victim mentality. So if you're interested, see you in there.